Our next guest would say that she lost her mother before she lost her. Stricken with Alzheimer's, Steph Jagger's mother struggles to remember. Aware of what's happening and desperate to capture the memories, Steph proposes a camping trip, and an adventure begins. The hauntingly beautiful memoir, Everything Left to Remember, takes us through the Rocky Mountains and captures what it means to get to know someone just as you are losing them. And Steph is here. Thank you, first of all, for this book.
Oh,
when I say it was hauntingly beautiful, you can't say, it's a great book.
It does kind of haunt you.
It does haunt you, and it resonates. We have parents, and so many of us are facing this. But tell us about the experience with your mother's Alzheimer's and why you chose to write this book.
Yeah, you know, I think with a lot of books, it's almost, my experience has been that they almost choose you to write them. And I felt like as soon as we finished the trip, I didn't go into the trip thinking I would write the book.
Okay.
But as soon as we finished the trip, I found myself just kind of like pouring words out into the notes app on my phone. And I thought, oh shoot, I think this is a larger story. And I think for me, there's two components. One is just the act of catharsis. Like, there was a lot of emotions for me that came up, like there is with many people in similar situations. And so, number one, I wanted my own catharsis. Number two, it felt like a gift that I could give to a broader community. And it also felt like a way of having my mother's mothering legacy continue in some way.
And you talked about that. So this trip, the camping trip through the Rocky Mountains, some would look at it, and I remember when you proposed it, I was like, what are you thinking?
Yes, exactly.
But what is it you discovered on the trip?
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of different things. I think the biggest thing that I discovered was what I would call maybe like the act of deep remembrance. You know, a lot of us who are going through things like Alzheimer's and dementia, like we get so hung up, and it's a really excruciating and confronting thing to think, gosh, my parent doesn't remember my name or who I am. And I think the trip really led me to a place of going for deeper remembrance, which is, okay, she doesn't remember my name, but can I sit in a deeper place and look for the ways that love and loss are shaping us and allow that and surrender to that as it takes place.
And did that happen the way you thought it would?
I mean, maybe not exactly the way that I thought it would, but yeah, I think that did happen overall.
Because you were in a tent.
Yes.
I mean, you took your mother.
Yes, and I think it's important to say a couple of things about that, because most people, when they think about Alzheimer's and dementia, if they don't have experience with it, or even if they do, they think about, you know, maybe an 80-year-old or 90-year-old person in quite late stage Alzheimer's. This was a early onset Alzheimer's. She was Jane Fonda fit. She was only a year into progression. So
she loved adventure.
Absolutely. She loved the outdoors. She loved nature. And for me to be able to present her, even if she wasn't going to remember it, to experience 12, 13, 14 days straight of awe and wonder, like, does a lot of good for our bodies.
She really related to the water, I remember. To that. You've said that, well, your grandmother had dementia.
Yes.
Your mom has Alzheimer's, and your godmother had Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And you said at one point, you asked the question, what happens when a lineage of women forgets themselves? Did you feel pressure to remember, to almost store up the memories? Because this idea of disappearing lineage was very much present in the book.
I don't feel a pressure to document, even though that's part of my job. What I feel more inspired to do is probably two things. Number one, it goes back to that idea of deep remembrance. That was on my parents' anniversary, just recently. It goes back to the idea of deep remembrance. Like, can I let love and loss shape me? Like, that's humanity. The second thing I think it inspires me to do, knowing that I live inside that lineage, is to be very present. Like, it threatens to steal future and it threatens to steal past. And so I kind of refuse to let it also take the present moment with it. So I think it inspires me to do that more than document everything, remember everything, collect everything.
And that was very much a theme in the book, the idea that you had to force yourself to stay present when there was so much, and I think this happens sometimes when we're faced with this kind of situation, we tend to go backwards and look at what could I have been, what were my parents not that they should have been, and that really is that does waste time, as you say.
Well, I mean, I think there's some value in, excavating our past and finding out various different answers or looking at various different pockets of pain, et cetera. But I don't think that's the place that we should then live and stay. That can be a pretty tough existence. I think there's a broader, kind of more expansive generosity of spirit that we can step into that takes us into the present moment.
Yeah, and we should say that your mother still with us, and this will only get harder, as you know, but how does that 2 weeks kind of inform how you go forward now with your mother?
Well, I think it goes back to presence. I mean, she is in late stage Alzheimer's now, so she's not very verbal, she's not very mobile. And so if I go in to visit her expecting that kind of interaction, that's going to take me out of the present moment, as opposed to going in and just thinking, gosh, if we hold hands today, that'll be lovely. If we just sit in the same room together today in silence, that'll be lovely.
You did not hold back in your book. Your emotions were right out there. Frustration, anger, hope, longing. The little girl came out. The almost mother to your mother came out. What advice do you have for those of us in this situation when it comes to our emotions?
I think two things. The first is really understanding the difference for me between conscious grieving and unconscious despair. If I'm in a state of conscious grieving, being present to as much as I can, I'm much more likely to be able to digest things, process things, integrate things, and be present. If I'm in a state of, I want to deny this, I don't want to look at this, like that might be helpful inside of one particular moment, but this is a long haul disease. Like to do that for 10 years is not going to be fun, and it's not going to be healthy. I think there's another thing that I would say to that is, to be in a state of conscious grieving at the same time as being the primary caregiver is a very difficult thing to do. So this is more so for family members. Like I can't expect my father, for example, who was the primary caregiver until my mother was moved into a care facility, I can't expect him to be in the same state of conscious grieving that I am inside of that moment. So I've got to release some of the expectations of that and allow him to be in a little bit of the unconscious despair. Because he needs that to get through the caregiving day to day.
Thank you so much, and thank you for writing this.
Oh, thank you so
I needed
much for
it, and I
having
know
me.
a lot of other people did too. Thank you so much. And you can hear more from Steph about everything left to remember on Tuesday evening, April 18th at the Central Branch of the Seattle Public Library. The free event is sponsored by Elliott Bay Book Company, and you can find more information on their website.